The air in the airport was thick with the distinct scent of coffee and hurried goodbyes. It was a smell I'd come to associate with my own happy memories of travel and reunion, a feeling of anticipation and freedom. But today, it was different. Today, I was here for one reason, and one reason only: to pick up a box of my favorite macarons from a specialty bakery near the International Arrivals Terminal. It was a stupid, spontaneous craving, one that had pulled me out of the comfortable ennui of a rainy Thursday afternoon, and it was a craving that would change everything. I wasn't supposed to be here. Not really. Mark had left early that morning, his face a mask of solemn concern. "My mom isn't doing so well, babe," he'd said, his voice low and weary. "Just going to go up for a few days to help out. You know how she gets when she's sick." He'd kissed me on the forehead, that familiar tender gesture, and I had believed him. Why wouldn't I? For 5 years, our relationship had been built on a foundation of what I thought was unshakable trust. His mother lived a few hours away, and his visits were a regular, if infrequent, part of our life. It was a story that felt real, that sounded true. As I stood in line, my mind drifted to our dinner plans for the weekend, a quiet evening at home that I was already looking forward to. It was the little things I loved about us, the comfortable silence, the shared jokes, the easy rhythm of our days. I was so lost in this pleasant daydream that I almost didn't notice him. But a flash of a familiar gray hoodie caught my eye, and my heart gave a little jolt. Mark. What was he doing here? He wasn't supposed to be back for days. He was supposed to be at his mother's house, comforting her, helping her get back on her feet. My rational mind immediately began to search for an explanation. Maybe he had forgotten something. Maybe his flight was delayed. Maybe he was picking up a friend. The truth, when it arrived, came with a brutal, visceral clarity that felt like a punch to the gut. He wasn't alone. He was standing with a woman I didn't recognize, a tall blonde with a bright, easy smile. My first thought was innocent, a co-worker maybe, or a distant family friend. But then, as they spoke, their body language told a different story. He laughed at something she said, a relaxed, unguarded sound I hadn't heard from him in weeks. He reached out and gently brushed a stray hair from her face, his fingers lingering for a beat longer than necessary. Then he cupped her cheek, pulled her in, and kissed her. It wasn't a quick peck on the cheek or a friendly hug. It was a full, lingering kiss on the lips, a goodbye kiss, a kiss that belonged to a man saying farewell to the woman he loved, not to a friend or a colleague. The world seemed to lose its color, the bustling airport fading into a muted, faraway background. The sounds, the frantic announcements over the intercom, the rumble of luggage wheels on the tile floor, the chatter of 100 different conversations, became a dull, meaningless hum. All I could focus on was the sight in front of me. Mark, my Mark, with another woman, a stranger, in a place he shouldn't have been, doing something he never should have done. I felt a wave of nausea, a cold dread that started in my stomach and spread like ice through my veins. My first impulse was to run over to him, to scream, to ask him how he could do this to me, to us, to everything we had built. I wanted to create a scene to make him feel a fraction of the pain he had just inflicted on me. But a second, calmer thought cut through the emotional chaos. A voice in my head, cold and precise, whispered, "Don't. Not here. Not like this." What would I achieve by confronting him in the middle of a crowded airport? He would lie. He would deny it. He would turn the situation on me, accusing me of being paranoid and crazy. The confrontation would become a public spectacle, messy and undignified, and I would leave with nothing but the same doubt and a handful of half-truths. No, that was not the way. The rush of betrayal slowly transformed into a quiet, chilling resolve. I was not going to give him the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. I was not going to let him control this narrative. I was going to be the one in control. I would not give him the chance to prepare, to concoct a new story, to find a way out. He had created this perfect lie, and now I would use that lie against him. I stayed hidden behind a column, my heart pounding in my ears. I watched as the woman turned and walked through the security checkpoint, a small smile still playing on her lips. Mark watched her go, a wistful look on his face, before he turned and headed toward the exit. I waited, a ghost in the crowd, until he was gone. Then, slowly, deliberately, I turned and walked in the opposite direction, toward the entrance. My macaron craving was gone, replaced by a new, far more compelling hunger. A hunger for the truth. As I walked out into the cool, damp air, I felt a strange sense of clarity. The pain was still there, a dull ache beneath the surface, but it was overshadowed by a quiet, steely determination. I was going to find out everything, every lie, every secret, every single piece of this betrayal. And when I had all the answers, when I had the undeniable proof, I would not confront him in an airport or a living room. I would do it on my own terms, in a way that would leave him with nothing left to say. The game had changed, and he had no idea he had just started it. The silence in our apartment that evening was a heavy, suffocating thing. Mark came home around 9, just as he said he would. He looked tired, his shoulders slumped as he set his duffel bag down by the door. "Long day," he mumbled, giving me a quick, chaste peck on the cheek. His eyes, though, didn't quite meet mine. He was acting out the part of the weary son, dutifully visiting his sick mother. I, in turn, was playing the role of the loving partner, the one who didn't know, the one who was completely oblivious. The facade was a necessity, a strategic tool. The woman I was hours ago, the one who would have screamed and cried, was gone. She had been replaced by a quiet, methodical strategist. My mind was no longer a battlefield of emotion, but a sterile, organized command center. I started with the most obvious place, his phone. I knew his passcode. It was our anniversary date, a testament to a trust that now felt like a punchline. I waited until he was in the shower, the sound of the running water a perfect cover. I took a deep breath and unlocked his phone. My hands were shaking, not with fear, but with a cold, focused energy. I went straight to his text messages, scrolling through conversations. Nothing with a name, just generic professional exchanges. Then I checked his call log. No unusual numbers. I realized what a fool I'd been to think he would be so careless. He was smarter than that. I was smarter than that. My gaze fell on his email. I knew his password for that too, a simple variation of his work email. I logged in on my laptop. It was a digital dead end. He was compartmentalizing, and he was doing it well. But I knew there had to be something, a digital footprint, the ghost of a conversation. I logged into our shared Wi-Fi router's admin panel, a skill I'd picked up after a frustratingly slow internet period. I had set it up myself and knew how to access the logs. I saw a long list of IP addresses and device names, a stream of data that was a foreign language to me. But buried within the static, I found it. A new device. A burner. Phone? The IP address was completely unknown to me, and it had connected at odd hours, always when I was asleep or at work. I took a screenshot of the log and logged out, putting everything back exactly as it was. The next step was more subtle. The woman, at the airport. I didn't get a clear look at her face, but she had a distinct, brightly colored scarf wrapped around her neck and a small gold-chained purse. She had a certain confident swagger in her walk. The details were small, almost insignificant, but my brain had catalogued them all. It was time to put my low-profile investigation skills to the test. I couldn't just Google blonde woman with a scarf at the airport. I had to think like a private investigator. I logged into my secondary, anonymous social media accounts, the ones I used for joining interest groups and staying updated on local events. I started with the obvious, the city Mark's sick mother lived in. I joined local community, groups, neighborhood forums, and even a hiking club he had mentioned she was a member of. I started casually posting, "Does anyone have a recommendation for a good cafe near city name?" And, "I'm looking for a gift for a friend who loves hiking. Any ideas?" My posts were generic, harmless, and gave me an excuse to scroll through the feeds and the members' profiles. I was looking for a face, a small detail, a name, anything. My focus narrowed to an unexpected source, his work. I knew he had been working on a project with a new team. I had even met a few of them at a company party a few months back. I remembered a woman who was a bit too friendly with him, but at the time, I dismissed it as professional camaraderie. Now that memory came back crystal clear. Her name was Chloe. I went to the company's website, clicked on the team section, and found her picture. My heart sank. It was the same blonde woman from the airport, the same bright smile, the same confident air. It was a match. I had the name. Now I needed to connect the dots. I found her social media profiles. Her pages were public, a goldmine of information. Her feed was filled with pictures from exotic locales, and a few of them, taken in the last few months, had a familiar figure just out of frame, a man's silhouette, a hand holding a drink, a reflection in a window. They were always cleverly cropped or angled, but the details were there if you knew what you were looking for. And I did. I saw a picture of a man's hand with a watch I had bought for Mark's birthday. I saw a reflection in a window of a city, skyline. I knew Mark had traveled to for a work conference. I screenshot everything, saving the images and the dates in a hidden folder on my computer. I felt no rage, no tears, just a cold, calculating satisfaction. Every little piece of proof was a victory. I was building a case, a comprehensive and irrefutable file. My life with him was a strange performance now. I would smile, ask him about his trip to his mother's, and listen with a placid expression as he spun his lies. I was an actress in a play I hadn't auditioned for, and the climax was coming. I was not going to be a victim. I was going to be the director, and I was going to script the perfect final scene. With every new piece of evidence, my resolve hardened, my plan taking on a sharper, more precise form. The end was no longer an emotional explosion, but a quiet, controlled demolition, and I was ready to press the button. The air was filled with the celebratory buzz of clinking glasses and warm laughter. The venue was an intimate, beautifully decorated private room at a new restaurant downtown, chosen specifically for this occasion. My 30th birthday dinner. I had spent weeks planning it, inviting our closest friends and family, orchestrating what I knew would be the perfect setting for the final act. Mark was at the head of the table smiling, raising a toast to me, completely oblivious. He believed he was the loving partner, the man of the hour, celebrating the woman he loved. I looked at him, and all I felt was a profound emptiness where anger used to be. The rage had burned itself out, leaving behind a cold, hard clarity. Let the evening unfold naturally, playing my part to perfection. I laughed at the jokes, thanked everyone for their kind words, and smiled a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. When the dessert came out, a stunning chocolate lava cake with a single candle, I knew it was time. As everyone finished singing Happy Birthday, I waited for the chorus to die down. The silence in the room filled only with the faint echo of their well wishes. I stood up, holding my glass of champagne. "Thank you all so much for coming. I began, my voice clear and steady. "This has been an amazing birthday, and I'm so grateful to have you all here. Family, friends, Mark." I paused, my gaze resting on him. He smiled, a proud and proprietorial look on his face. "This past year has been one of discovery for me. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned about trust, about what it means to be truly honest with someone, and about what happens when that trust is broken." A ripple of confusion passed through the room. My parents exchanged a worried glance. Our friends looked at each other, wondering if this was part of some elaborate birthday speech. Mark's smile faltered, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He knew my tone had shifted. "Speaking of honesty," I continued, "I wanted to share a story with you all. It's a story I've been writing over the last few weeks. It's about a man who said he was visiting his sick mother in another city, but who was actually visiting someone else." I saw the blood drain from Mark's face. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. "This is not a story I created in my head," I said, my voice gaining an edge of steel. I reached for my phone, which was sitting on the table, and connected it to the large flat-screen monitor in the corner of the room that was currently displaying a slideshow of my baby pictures. The picture changed. The first image on the screen was a screenshot of Mark's call log with the anonymous IP address. "For those of you who are technologically inclined," I said, addressing the room, "this is a record of a device that has been connecting to our home network at all hours of the night for the past 3 months. A device I do not own, and one that doesn't belong to Mark." The room was silent, the festive atmosphere completely shattered. My friend Sarah gasped audibly. I continued, methodically clicking through the pictures. "I found this next one on the social media of a colleague of Mark's," I explained, as a picture of a woman with a blonde ponytail and a brightly colored scarf appeared. "Her name is Chloe. You might recognize her from the company holiday party." A few people nodded grimly. "And while her public profile is mostly filled with pictures of her travels, she wasn't quite as careful with her phone as she was with her social media." The screen changed again. This time it showed a series of pictures I had meticulously collected. A cropped photo of Mark's watch in the reflection of a hotel window in Paris. A picture of a hand with a distinct mole I knew belonged to him, holding a wine glass that matched the ones in one of Chloe's vacation photos. A screenshot of a flight confirmation for a trip to Bali, with the dates perfectly aligning with Mark's work conference. I had found it in a deep hidden folder on his laptop, buried under layers of professional documents. Each picture was a silent, damning witness to his betrayal. "The final piece of this puzzle," I said, my voice a quiet whisper, "was something I saw with my own 2 eyes. 3 weeks ago, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, I was at the airport. You told me you were visiting your mother. I saw you, Mark. I saw you say goodbye to Chloe at the international departures terminal, kissing her goodbye before she got on a plane to Paris." I looked directly at him, and for the first time he couldn't meet my gaze. His face was a contorted mask of shame and fear. He had been exposed not by an emotional outburst, but by a quiet, irrefutable truth. He was no longer the man in control. The power had shifted completely. "So, Mark," I said, my voice now loud and clear, echoing in the stunned silence. This is not the end of a birthday, but the end of a relationship. It's the end of a lie. The only thing I want for my birthday is for you to pack your things and leave. You can explain this to everyone in the room when I'm gone. I'm done. I set my glass down on the table, the clink of the crystal, a final exclamation point. I looked around the room at the faces of my friends and family. Some shocked, some heartbroken, all of them looking at me with a newfound respect. I felt a surge of strength, a powerful sense of release. I was no longer an actor in his play. I was the protagonist of my own story. I took one last, long look at him sitting there, small and defeated, and then I turned and walked away. The city lights outside looked brighter than they ever had before. The rain had stopped, and the air smelled fresh and clean. The weight I had been carrying for weeks was gone, lifted by the truth. My heart was no longer an ache but a beat, steady, strong, and entirely my own. I had lost a partner, but I had reclaimed myself, and as I hailed a cab, I knew this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. A new life, unburdened and free, was waiting for me just around the corner.